Ma'am again.
I'm sorry, Madam President.
I mean, it's going to keep happening. I just need to get over it, I'm sure. Okay. Wait one more minute, see if we can get Secretary Bose. I see we have one student board member. Will somebody let me know if we get our other student board member at some point, just so we can be sure to welcome her?
Will do. I'll text you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, well, I trust Sarah will join us soon, and it's 5:31. So let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. We have all board members with the exception of Secretary, oh, no, we do. We have all board members. Secretary Sarah Bose is here.
Good evening.
Hi. We're just calling the meeting to order. We also have our student board member, Mr. McGinnis, with us. And we will begin as ever with the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the New Mexico flag in English and in Spanish, as well as the acknowledgement of tribal land. Is anyone feeling inspired for the pledge or the salute?
I can do it.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Okay.
Deputy Superintendent Romero, thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y la república que representa una nación bajo de Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Saludo a la bandera del Estado de Nuevo México y el símbolo Zia de amistad perfecta entre culturas unidas. We acknowledge the original people of the land, the Tesuque Pueblo people and other tribal nations, and ask them to walk with us today as we share and learn together.
Thank you very much, Deputy Superintendent. Moving on to the approval of the agenda. Superintendent, do we need to change anything?
We have no changes tonight, Madam President.
Thank you. Board members, is there a motion?
I move approval.
Thank you,
I
Dr.
second.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. Secretary Bose with the second. We'll do a roll call vote on the approval of the agenda. Vice President Garcia.
Yes.
Thank you. Secretary Bose.
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Thank you. Board Member Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, and on we go to the introduction of interpreter. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble. Deputy Superintendent Romero will read us the introduction to our interpreter.
Para servicio de traducción en español, marque 206-451-6064. A continuación, 701-802-5152. Y el número de acceso es 4277-932#. Y por favor, mantenga su teléfono en silencio durante la traducción.
Thank you very much. We now have our school board showcase, and we start off with Gonzalez Community School, which is close to many of us on the board. And I just want to say, as a Gonzalez parent, I was very pleased to get a notice that Gonzalez would be featured at the school board showcase tonight. So I want to welcome everyone from Gonzalez who is here and watching in YouTube land. Thank you for being with us. And we'll go ahead with the school board showcase. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board. It's my great pleasure to introduce Principal Chris Lopez and also his Assistant Principal, Melissa Kovac, as they take us through tonight's showcase of Gonzalez Community School.
Good evening, Madam President, Superintendent, members of the board. It's a great pleasure to be here. This is an interesting school year, and as such, we wanted to showcase our school in a very interesting way. So, Cody, you have our video queued up, is that correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so we'll present the video and then I'll come in afterward. Thank you.
Everly, I love that name. What grade are you in?
Kinder.
You're in kindergarten. What is your favorite thing about kindergarten?
About learning.
You like learning. What do you like to learn?
About like rhyming.
Rhyming? I like rhymes too. Thank you so much. You did great.
What's your name?
Brian.
Brian, and what grade are you in?
I'm in second grade.
Oh, nice. What's your favorite thing about this school?
My favorite thing about this school is that I like the teachers because every time that we go to the school, they teach us new things and new things and new things.
That's cool. So you like learning new things?
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. High five.
My name is Damian Mitchell.
Hello. What class are you in?
I'm in Miss Johnson's homeroom.
Oh, great. Miss Johnson. What's your favorite thing about Miss Johnson's homeroom?
She gives us a lot of projects.
What's your grade as a whole?
You know what? I think it's a very middle grade.
Yeah.
It's like it's
Middle
not
around, yeah.
It's not really elementary. It's not really middle school. It's like your own thing.
Sick. Good job.
Jason, my favorite thing about this school is recess. And I love to learn.
Like recess? High five.
Hey, my name is Adriana Montoya.
Okay, and what grade do you teach?
I teach 6th grade math and science.
Cool. What's your favorite thing about being a 6th grade teacher?
My favorite thing about being a 6th grade teacher is teaching science and doing experiments with my students.
That's really cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's your name?
Aileen.
Aileen. What do you like about Gonzalez?
The classes?
What do you like about middle school?
My friends?
Who's that?
Hi, what's your name?
Cruz.
Cruz, and what grade are you in?
Cruz.
You're in 1st grade? That's so cool. Who's your teacher?
Sina.
That's cool. What's your favorite thing at this school?
Friends.
Your friends? That's cool. High five. Hi, what's your name? And what grade are you in?
Second.
You're in 2nd grade? What's your favorite thing about this school?
boys.
Do arts and crafts? That's really fun. Thank you. High five.
Okay. What's your name?
Carlos.
Carlos. What do you like about Gonzalez?
The teachers and the students.
What do you like about middle school?
Nothing.
What's your name?
Mrs. Strice.
Miss Trice. What do you like about technology?
Well, technology is really fun to teach because the kids love it. Technology is important because it is the future. I think in my class we are preparing students for careers that they may want to apply for in the future.
Hi, Brandy. What do you like about this school?
Oh, I love the school here. I love the staff. I love all the students. They're like a big family to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, what's your name?
Mr. Fletcher.
What do you love about Gonzalez Community School?
Some of the things that I love are the fact that we're all like a big family. And what families usually have for each other, at least you try to have, is love. Lots of love. So there's a lot of love here at Gonzalez. And that's what I like about Gonzalez the most. So.
That's amazing.
Hi, what's your name?
I'm Mr. Granillo.
Hi, Mr. Granillo. What do you like about teaching here?
What I like about teaching here is a true sense of family and community, striving to be the best every day.
Nice. High five.
Hi, I'm Yasmin, and what's your name? Bella. Bella, what do you like about Gonzalez? I like the sports. Good job.
Hello, what's your name? Jamie Chavez. Nice to meet you, Jamie. What is your favorite thing about teaching at Gonzalez?
So my favorite thing about teaching at Gonzalez is probably the students. Getting to know them. We have a great community here, and I like sharing learning with them.
What's your name?
Karina.
What do you love about Gonzalez Community School?
Well, other than its fabulous staff and fabulous students, I would say I'm most proud of Gonzalez for being part of the CSR 2025. So CSR is a resolution signed in 2018 by the Santa Fe Public Schools Board of Education. And CSR will give Gonzalez and all schools in the district the time and funds needed to bring computer science into the school. And what this means is for the Gonzalez students is that the students will have access to coding, engineering, game and act design, and so much more. It's all very exciting.
That's amazing.
You can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah.
So what we wanted to show more than anything was our dedication to the familial aspect of our school. We hook them with the heart. And then we wanted to come in behind with our dedication to making Gonzalez a flagship school for the district in terms of technology education. We have a new position that we created this past year. It's called Computer Assisted Art. And if you can think of a place like Meow Wolf and all the technology, all the engineering, all the things that go into that type of creation, that's what this was the vision for this. And you heard Karina, who is our wonderful DLC, talk about the CSR grant. And what we want to do is create a backbone within our classes, all our classes, that really focus on critical thinking and really have concentration on the future for our students, 21st century education. I think too often in education, we're caught in this world of the past where the rote and the drill and kill don't quite cut it for the jobs, the economy of the future. And we want to make our name known synonymous with working towards those jobs of the future. So that's our vision.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Ms. Kovac, do you want to make any comments?
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez, and all of our other district leaders on here. I just have to say that I am so proud to be a team member of Gonzalez. And despite some of the difficulties we've had to face this school year, I do have to say we are Lobo strong. Visiting classes and seeing the work that's being done, but more importantly, the happy faces, the happy eyes that come walking through the door is exciting and fills my heart every day. And I just have to say the team we work with is amazing, and the students we work with, we're doing good things at Gonzalez. And that goes a lot for our district support. We've had a lot of them come out, reach out to us, and it's been great. So thank you.
Well, thank you both very much for being here. And certainly thank those student reporters who did such a great job on their interviews. I don't know how, when I was a reporter, I never figured out to end an interview with a high five, but
that is one of the highlights of our school, is we're able to have our 8th graders mentor our middle school team mentor our younger students. And that's one of the great things, is to be able to integrate them into the learning of the younger students.
President Noble,
yes, go ahead, Superintendent.
add a couple of things just to make note of some of the things we saw in this great video. So wonderful leadership there at Gonzalez. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for all you're doing. If you guys saw the new security guard at Gonzalez with that blue polo, that is one of our new internal security safety aides that is employed through the district. So we've done a great job of really recruiting them. That was one of the first. It was a hard to fill position initially through the vendor. And really bringing it back within Santa Fe Public Schools, we've been able to provide that type of support to some of our hard to fill positions as far as security. So that was one. The second one, we've received additional funding to really expand computer science across the district. And so that's a great initiative that we'll continue moving forward with. And tomorrow, Hour of Coding. You guys talked about computer science. We'll have Hour of Coding across the district there at Gonzalez. I'll be at Milagro from 1 to 2 participating along with other district staff across the district. So great job, guys. You know, it really shows the great leadership, the family at Gonzalez. And I may come by to ask for one of those Lobo Strong type shirts.
You got it. Thank you, everybody. And thank you to everybody for all your help and everything you've done. Carl, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Mr. Lopez, Ms. Kovac, great to see you.
Nice seeing you as well. Thank you, President Noble.
Next up in our school board showcase, we have the Capitol High. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Dr. Gonzalez.
I was really happy to see that video, and I'm very excited that you're doing coding and technology skills for the kids, because that's really important. And I'm very proud of that school. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. We hope we live true to your legacy. Thank you.
And just in case anyone doesn't know, we imagine many of us here do, but Gonzalez Community School is named for Dr. Gonzalez's late father. And we're very grateful to have the family that we have still contributing and having given so much over the years to Santa Fe and to the Santa Fe Public Schools. Great legacy. Okay, now moving on our school board showcase to the Capitol High School Orchestra. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board. Again, with us tonight is our district music coordinator, Miss April Pickrell.
It's great to be back. Good evening, everyone. The music programs across the district had 30 students earn a position in the all-state ensembles. We are super proud of how hard the students and teachers work to make this happen. Zach McGhee, who has served Santa Fe Public Schools for 6 years at the Capitol High School Orchestra, is proud of his orchestra program. This year, Luca Buckley, senior at Capitol High School, became a 2-year all-stater in orchestra. There are also 4 students that are participating in the Santa Fe Youth Symphony, which is also by audition only. Part of the success of the students is our partnership with the Santa Fe Chamber Music Festival and their program, Dream Big. This program provides individual private lessons for free or greatly reduced costs by professional musicians. One-on-one instruction such as this is vital for students who would like to continue music in college. Students in Mr. McGhee's orchestra are auditioning for college music programs and are being awarded music scholarships. This really shows the growing college career awareness of his program. We are so excited for the opportunities that music is giving Santa Fe Public School students. Please enjoy this performance of Spartacus by Brian Balmages.
Good afternoon. I'm Zach McGhee. I'm the orchestra director here at Capitol High School, and I'm really excited to share a student-led project that my students have been putting together for the last few weeks. Spartacus by Brian Baumage, and it's been incredible to see them taking such leadership and ownership of their own learning in a very hands-on way that has, really would not have been possible to do this sort of project last year during the online and remote learning. So it's such a pleasure for me to present them playing this piece because it shows how much that they've been able to get going since the start of this school year. So I hope you enjoy Brian Balmage's Spartacus.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pickerel. It feels like it's been too long since we've seen you, and that was wonderful, really wonderful.
It's been long. I feel like it's been long too. Great to see all of you. Thank you so much for your support.
Please give our regards to the folks at Capitol High and thank them for that wonderful piece. Okay, moving swiftly along, we have arrived at public forum. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board. With us tonight is Mr. Cody Donarski, our Public Information Officer.
Good evening, Board President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. There are 0 people signed up for public forum comment tonight.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Donarski. In that case, we will move on to Roman numeral 5 on our agenda, our union update. Is Grace Mayer with us, President of NEA Santa Fe? There she is. Welcome, Ms. Mayer.
I would like to talk to you about a couple things and then ask Cody to pull up the art build flyer that I want to discuss and the opportunity for us to talk to our legislature in a unique way this year. The first concern and consideration I want the board to sort of grapple with a little bit is that our We're having a lot of difficulty with student behaviors in our schools. And I've been in discussions with the superintendent on maybe some solutions to some of that in terms of supports that we need to provide to our students that are acting out in various ways for various reasons. Some of them, they've experienced loss, and they don't have the coping skills to really ask for the help that they need. And so their behaviors are, disruptive and, not necessarily conducive to learning. So there's a lot of distraction for other students who are maybe present. There's much more fighting than we anticipated, I think, in returning. And I think there's also been a push to sort of get back to normal, but a lot of our students haven't been in school for 2 years. And so they don't understand even the concept of what school is. Our little ones, kindergartners who are now first graders were never in school. So they don't know how to walk down a hallway and not, hit their friend on, with something when they want to talk to them. So those experiences have to be explicit. Our expectations have to be explicitly taught at every grade level. And there's been a lot of regressive behaviors. And so I think we need to start investing in, how we can get some counselors and other social workers into our schools, use our resources that we have. We have shortages of nurses and those individuals, but we have provisions in our contract. We could offer extended hours to some folks if they choose to do that, to provide additional support. And I've talked to the superintendent about that. But I also believe we need to start looking into hiring contractors to come into the schools and start to teach some of those skills that our students desperately need. They haven't engaged with each other, so their interactions are also kind of little strained, and they don't understand appropriate behaviors in ways that, coming back to in person, people thought, oh, okay, we would resolve some of these like quickly. That hasn't been the case. And so I'm asking the board and the staff to consider, including the superintendent, to consider how we can work together to resolve some of these issues. So on a more pleasant note, we're really excited to be part of the Think an Educator campaign in partnership with the Santa Fe Public Schools and the Santa Fe Chamber of Commerce. And we're asking all the businesses and any individuals who'd like to show their gratitude for educators who work in public schools, express that by donating in-kind services or gift cards or money or whatever they'd like to show that support. I think it would be well appreciated. NEA Santa Fe has just donated $20 gift cards from Albertsons that are going to be in some of those lucky folks' stockings. And we are also asking that if you want to share a story from, a favorite educator or someone who supported you in your education, to send that along. And I just want to give a shout out to someone when I was in 3rd grade, Mrs. DeLuca, who was my 3rd grade teacher. And some of you know this and some of you don't, but I had difficulty speaking as a child. And sometimes as an adult, I had a stammering issue, and she always encouraged us to read out loud. And during this time of year, she had this, she had a contest. Well, it was more of, we memorized "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," and then we had to retell it. And then we received like a chocolate Santa or something, for the holidays. And I was very motivated by the chocolate, I think. But also I really liked her and wanted to please my teacher because she was very sweet. And she encouraged me to participate, and it was a struggle, but I got through it. and I got my Santa. But I want to thank all the teachers who support students that have difficulties in different areas and encourage them to try to overcome those things and participate fully in a class. And I think that's what I try to do in my classroom. And I think most of us who work for Santa Fe Public Schools knows that we're just one step away from understanding what excites a child in their education, if only we can find it, right? If only we know what that thing is, but accepting who they are and what they have to offer and trying to expand on that and always encouraging them is what we're about. So I appreciate all our educators, and by educators, I mean everyone in our school system, our secretaries, our nurses who encourage, students to live, healthy lives and make sure they're doing things that to their bodies that are positive, never negative. And certainly our bus drivers and our educational assistants, our librarians, our social workers, and all our other staff that come to work in the public schools. We're so appreciative of you being there for students. And so with that, if Cody can bring up the NEA Santa Fe Community Art Build flyer, I'm going to discuss this opportunity for the community to come and help not only educators from Santa Fe, but across the state to discuss issues and concerns that we have as employees and advocates of students with our legislature. So we're going to have a unique opportunity for people to participate at Milagro Middle School at our first community art build. And we're going to be making picket signs and banners and various other artistic kind of and advocacy work to promote and support our demands for the legislature of affordable housing, access to affordable childcare for district employees, better wages, affordable health care, insurance, smaller classes, and improved staffing and access to prep time. So there is a lot of artists from around the state around the country who are providing different logos and things that were developed for the art builds. And we have regional artists, including myself, who submitted designs. So we're going to be printing silk screens and making, like I said, banners and painting, and it should be a lot of fun. It's going to be Friday, January 14th from 5 to 8 p.m., Saturday, January 15th from 9 to 8 p.m., all day at Milagro Middle School, and Sunday, January 16th from 9 to 8. Milagro Middle School is on Llano Street in Santa Fe, and it should be a really fun activity. All of the work that we're making and the art created will be used in a rally at the Roundhouse on Sunday, January 23rd from noon to 2 p.m. So we're hoping that not only you're getting interested in sort of advocating in a different way, in a more unique artistic way, and then we'll bring all the signs and all the banners to the rally so we can really elevate the voices of our community and the needs of our schools and our students, and elevate educators' voices about how we can best serve our students. So I'm really excited to have this here. That other page is just a repeat from last week about, last meeting, about our legislative platform and what NEA New Mexico funding priorities are. And we reviewed that last time, but it's wanted to just send it along so that the community understands that we need to provide money and resources for community schools and the kind of outreach that some of our students in high poverty schools really need, and also reduce class size and have adequate staffing. along with increasing wages, because we know that in Santa Fe, the cost of living is really high. And we're grateful to the governor for acknowledging that there has to be a significant raise increase, but we're asking for 10%. And she is initially saying 7%, but I think in the city of Santa Fe, we really have to acknowledge that our cost of living is much higher, and accessing affordable childcare and affordable housing for our employees is very challenging. So I think that's it, unless anyone has any questions about the art build or any other comments.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Madam President, members of the board, and Grace, are you planning to take students to the legislature? I mean, they really respond to students.
Well, we hope so. We hope the community turns out to the art build with their families, and it's open to the public. We're going to try to have food vendors and other people there. We're going to try to have music, or mariachi bands maybe, and we're reaching out to some of our bands, Santa Fe High School. Hopefully they'll be interested, but we'd love to have the students come. It's on a Sunday. The whole family can come prior to the session.
Actually, what I was talking about during the session, during committee hearings, when they're talking about class size or other things, I mean, students seem to have more of an impact on legislators than adults. Well, that's my opinion or my observation.
I agree. And we have had different classes. You know, I know the Milagro Middle School staff has taken our kids to the legislature, and I'll encourage them to have field trips and other things. I'm not sure, if some of that's in the works right now at other schools. So let's hope so. But certainly during the rally that we have, we'd love for students and their families to come out and talk to the media, help us advocate for the things that we need to make the best public schools that we can, and the most equitable public schools that we can in Santa Fe. And I think that starts with treating our staff with dignity and respect in terms of a reasonable salary and wage, and making sure that our students have a teacher in front of them and not a substitute, and not a series of makeshift kind of arrangements where we have coverage but not the kind of intention we'd like, because of the lack of staffing.
Yes, we need more teachers and staff.
Yes, we need more bus drivers. We need more EAs, educational assistants,
substitutes,
nutrition, you name it.
Yeah, principals too. So we need everybody.
Madam President.
Go ahead, Vice President Garcia.
Thank you, Grace, for actually getting involved in the union. Dr. Gonzalez is totally correct. You need to bombard those state legislatures with emails, go into their offices, bombard them. As you know, we were at the New Mexico School Board Association conference this last week, and as Senator Souls mentioned, there's an abundance of money there at that roundhouse. You need to have all of your teachers statewide, all of your bombard them with emails. Make them get tired of you. Make them say, they're there at the door again. Yes, we're here at the door again. Yes, we're here at the door again. Yes, we're here at the door again. And I understand that the rally is that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But as Dr. Gonzalez mentioned, she works the session, and she sees it firsthand. However, we need to do it. Bombard those people till they hate seeing you, Grace, because that is what's needed from the governor's office all the way down to each legislature to that state capitol, that floor, because they need to hear that and go for the 10%. The Senator Soul says there's money there. Go for the 10%. But please, whatever help you need from us, me, holding a flag out there, whatever we need, you need to get their attention, their direct attention. And please do that. However you can do it, let me know. Let us know whatever we can help. Bombard it, seriously. And thank you for bringing it up, Dr. Gonzalez. You know how that you know how it goes.
Well, we need everybody to spread the word. So the art build is the first step, but we've already started sending letters to legislators, so setting up meetings with representatives that will be holding in early January, some over the holiday break. And I don't shy away from my representatives. So they hear from me a lot, but they really need to hear from parents. And like you said, and a lot of our staff are parents that send their students to Santa Fe Public Schools. And so bring them along, go to that meeting, bring them along, you know, like you said, stand in their doorway until they listen.
And just as you know, our Santa Fe delegation, a lot of us know who they are. And they're very instrumental in that roundhouse. As Dr. Gonzalez is nodding her head, yes. And who came up with 7%? Why not 5%? Why not 10%? Go for 10%. Every teacher, every educator, and every district employee, as Senator Sol said, they're all going to get some sort of an increase in their salary. Go for 10. I don't know where this
we are. We're not backing down. We're making
this number 7 come out of the error. Number 7. Let's do that one. But I'm just saying, whatever, you get it. So please talk to them as you're doing.
Yeah, we definitely would love for you guys to come with your families and your relatives to the art build, and then to the rally, and then certainly prior or after when the session starts, please just start trying to make appointments and showing up. And you know, it's challenging. Sorry, it's challenging when a lot of the committee meetings are in the morning, you know, and so, you know, it's hard for us to be in our building but, you know, we can certainly send emails and make a difference in these 2 different events. But I think if we can get some press and momentum around the art build, we can start to focus on what our real demands are and not back down. And I have told our many employees that this is the year. This is the year you need to demand the pay that we should have been getting for the last 20 years, frankly. It hasn't been, you know, what we needed to be, especially in Santa Fe, for years. And we need to stop kidding ourselves that, you know, the shortages or the resignations are not about money. They're about money and they're about resources. When you can't live in the community you work in, that's a tragedy. I'm sorry. And it's getting to the point where the rents are too high. And, you know, why commute when you can work in Albuquerque or another location? But I also think it's, you know, you have to be able to see your future in a pay table. And if you don't see a future in employment in a pay table, you're not going to stick around. And so people are leaving after a few years, you know, because they're encouraged to move to such a beautiful state. And, you know, there's a lot of outdoor experiences and, you know, museums in Santa Fe, the opera, there's great cuisine, you know, certainly a history, you know, in art and architecture that goes back thousands of years with our native pueblos and arts and crafts from Spain, and that are still, you know, dominating the culture here. And so it's an attractive place to be, and people want to come to New Mexico, but they just can't afford to stay and live here and raise a family. And that's where we need to change that. And I'm hoping that everybody that has been dedicated to the public schools and has lived and worked here or grew up here, of course, you know, needs to take it to our legislature and say, hey, you know, this is what we need to make this job work for us in our lives. And also, this is what our students demand. And as a parent, you know, this is what I want for my student in their education. And some of the mandates that are not ever funded or not necessary in terms of our view, some of the testing and other programming that we're being asked to do is not appropriate. And it hasn't been developmentally appropriate, and we're not interested in doing it anymore. And, you know, at some point, they're going to have to listen to us because there's less and less of us. So unless they want a complete crisis throughout the state, which I think we're already almost there with 1,400 vacancies in educators, and even, I don't know how many hundred in educational assistants, but, you know, we're going to be at a point where other states have realized that they're going to have to shut down 1 day a week and go to 4 days in person, 1 day remote. That's happening across the country. They're bringing in the National Guard to drive students to school because they don't have bus drivers. So we're pretty close to being there. So this is the time that we need to, you know, bring our voices to the table and say, look, these are demands. These are not just requests. We're not gently reminding you that we're underpaid. You need to pay us or we're moving on. And a lot of people have made that decision. And people like myself, you know, that have put in over 25 years, these people can retire. And so in order for them to stay, we have to figure out a workable, manageable system. And there's alternatives to what, you know, the job day can look like, you know, part-time employment, other things we can do to bring back retirees within a reasonable amount of time. Maybe they just sit out a month. There's no reason they need to sit out 12 months. I mean, we need to bring those return to work people back immediately. So I know you guys have heard this from me, but we really need to get it out to the community. And I hope with this community event and with the rally the week later that it'll really motivate Santa Fe to come and support public education.
Madam President.
Vice President Garcia.
Grace, with that speech that you just gave us, that you've done a great job, you need to get to those legislators in their doors and tell them that you're a union and you need to be like the unions back east, whether it's FedEx union or a UPS union. You need to tell them that exactly what you tell us. A little more authoritative, and you need to tell them that because you've told us this before, and you have all of our backing. You need to tell them that for that 10%. And I wish you guys might have thought of, instead of having it at Milagro, you might have wanted to have it maybe at the Roundhouse itself out there. I don't know what the weather's going to be like, but thank you for what you do. Please use that.
Well, they are.
Tell them that because they're the ones that are that level of policymakers.
Yeah, they're making art at Milagro. The rally is at the Roundhouse.
Oh.
It's the making for the signs, which sounds like lots of fun, and we will all absolutely help get the word out. And we all need to be there advocating. I mean, Ms. Mayor absolutely does, but the rest of us need to be involved too.
I just want to add with Angus on here, and I think a couple of us already spoke to this, but our students are a huge advocate. And Angus, you know, you're a student board member, and getting some students together and speaking at the legislature is very powerful. And, you know, I know you guys are feeling it in the classroom, right? With a lot of substitute teachers as Ms. Mayor was mentioning, and you guys are feeling it, right? And the power of the student voice is huge. And, you know, so if you guys, you know, if you can get together some students and go speak, I think that's very powerful as well.
Anything? Yeah, Mr. McGinnis, please go ahead.
Yeah, to comment on that, last week we just launched our Youth in Government Club, and I am the Attorney General for the state of New Mexico and Youth in Government. And I think it'd be awesome if we were able to do some more public outreach and actually send students to the Roundhouse, because the pay for teachers is just crazy for the 21st century.
Great. Well, thank you. Dr. Gonzalez.
Madam President, members of the board, I will help you. I will let you know. I think the best place to start is the Senate Education Committee, because they start doing the bills in the committees first before it goes to the floor. And that's the time to get to legislators. So if you want to know when that is, I mean, it'll be on the web as well, but I'm more than happy to let you all know.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. All right, thank you very much, Ms. Mayor. And seems a great activity. We will certainly support you and get the word out and hope that the community shows up to make art and support a strong legislative session for educators.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have student board member announcements and follow-up. Mr. McGinnis, anything else from you tonight?
Not really, besides Youth in Government launching at Santa Fe High this week with Mr. Peterson and Ms. Krasik. That's about it from me.
Okay, thank you very much. How about this? Let me ask you a quick question. Any updates on how you think students are doing right now? Is everybody as frazzled as they are in the professional world?
Yeah, I'd say people are pretty startled. I think it's a little bit freaky to have so many teacher vacancies and so many substitutes, because I think people get really scared when they, like, for example, this week on Friday, we get out an hour early and everyone's slightly confused about that. And I think when you start to connect that there are not enough teachers and there are not enough subs, it makes you start to have flashbacks from online school, which isn't the greatest feeling.
Okay, well, thank you. And please feel free to bring to us the zeitgeist from the student perspective at any given time. We always need more of that. Okay, moving on to board announcements and follow-up. Any announcements or follow-up from the board?
Madam President.
Go ahead, Secretary Bozay.
Thank you. I don't know, I'm not sure if this is our discussion area or if we're still doing that at the end of the meeting.
We still have it on the agenda at the end of the meeting as the function it always served, which is to bring up issues that we want to ask the superintendent to look into or.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. I will wait until the end of the meeting then. Thank you.
Okay, and just to say, in case there's any confusion, those two agenda items, board announcements, board follow-up and updates, and board discussion can seem a little bit mushy, and of course there's judgment. But the point of board discussion is, as long as I've been president and through previous presidents, that any board member can request to put an item on the agenda and we can have board discussion and possible action. And it's really great that most of you don't remember well, I don't think anybody does, and I barely was a part of it, but there was once upon a time lots of wrangling about whether boards could get things on the agenda, and they had various different norms and agreements. And we've carried forward the principle that any board member can put something on the agenda under that board discussion item, which I think is a good thing, but just to say that's what it's there for. And then if we want to ask the superintendent to do a significant body of work, the idea was that was also a time where we can get at least 3 of us to nod yes, so we don't end up being 5 people giving direction to the superintendent, but we're able to act as one unit as the board giving direction to the superintendent. So
perfect, thank you.
Yeah, just to say all that out loud. Well, I was going to talk about what Ms. Mayer touched upon, the Thank an Educator campaign, which is a partnership with NEA Santa Fe, as she mentioned, the Santa Fe Chamber of Commerce and the district. in just, working to bring community support, particularly to surround our schools. And as part of our community schools work, it seems like it's always a good idea to put deeper roots in the community and to remind our community that education doesn't just happen. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of work from a lot of people, and it's worth supporting. And we're in very tough times where our educators are picking up a lot of society's everything, and we need to say thank you. So I would encourage everyone who can to contribute. Many of us are thinking about the individual things we do for our children's teachers as well. And this is a way all the gifts and gift cards and awards will be done by lottery. They'll be randomly awarded. So just to be clear, even though there are dedications involved, individual gifts are still happening in individual ways. This is a way for the community to, in a more wholesale way, appreciate education and to dedicate whatever they give to somebody who is teaching or not, a teacher from a different place, from a different lifetime, who's passed on. And to that end, I will just say that I made a gift to the effort, to the Thank an Educator effort, and I'm dedicating it to Lorraine Price as I have continued to process how much I learned from her, even though I knew her as a teacher at Santa Fe High. She was never my teacher until I got to the board. And then she really became a teacher, or maybe we'd say mentor, but I am more and more appreciative of the many bits of pithy wisdom that I got from Lorraine Price and the profound lessons in educational systems, leadership, advocacy, equity, you name it. She was covering a lot of bases, and I'm so grateful for her. So dedicated my gift. And it's only open through December 13th. So this is so that the gifts can be distributed. So this is a sort of quick and nimble experimentation with, getting some community appreciation to our educators at a key time of year. So just wanted everybody to know about that. And I want to thank the superintendent and Ms. Ibarra, Ms. Romero, everybody who worked really hard to get that off the ground. And everybody's so busy, including the Chamber of Commerce, but it did come together. And I know that the businesses are contributing and they're getting some good response over at the Chamber. So that's great. And I want to thank everyone. And Superintendent, are you going to cover take a break in your announcements? Okay, so I won't say anything about that, but it's really wonderful to see all of the efforts to support our educators and the community, and really just recognize that it's time for a rest, and it's been a tough half a year. So I appreciate that. Okay.
Madam President?
Yes.
I don't know. I guess I'm still a little bit confused. Maybe we should address that here at a future in regards to board announcements and follow-ups, and also in regards to board discussion. But I'll just wait for all the items I have to bring up from board discussion. But before he gets off, I just wanted to thank General McGinnis for actually being the new Attorney General. That's very good. Congratulations on that. Every time I hear you speak from the last years, you speak very highly and great, and I'm glad that you got that position. You deserve it. Congratulations, my friend. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you so much.
Okay, anything else from the board? All right, we'll go ahead and move on to superintendent announcements and follow-up. Mr. Chavez.
Thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board. We have quite a few announcements, so I'm going to try to get through them pretty quickly. So, of course, we have the State of the Schools coming out Monday. It will go live December 13th at 6 p.m. The annual event launches on YouTube and will feature a 35-minute video on the varied accomplishments and activities of Santa Fe Public Schools this year. You'll hear from Board President Noble, school leaders, and where we're at and where we're going in the future. This video replaces the in-person event due to the COVID-19 restrictions and also out of caution. So again, get your popcorn ready Monday night. Enjoy the presentation. I also wanted to thank thank our public information officer, Mr. Cody Donarski. He was really the individual that recorded all videos, edited, and produced it. So I think you really enjoy this video. Test to Stay. We just launched the Test to Stay program Monday, December 6th. For those of you that do or do not know about this program, this is a modified quarantine program that really does prioritize the students' in-person learning despite having an exposure to COVID-19. When the students or staff, again, it's for both, are exposed at school, parents will have the option to participate in the program. Again, that is either for their student who has been exposed and they are unvaccinated or vaccinated and they are not symptomatic. So again, asymptomatic, they have to test negative on days 1, 3, and 5 to continue with in-person learning. So again, they must test negative on 1, 3, and 5 following an exposure. This program is only for those who have been exposed in the school settings. Again, if they've been exposed outside the school setting, they are not eligible for this program. The school settings do include all of our grounds, transportation, which includes bus trips, school-sponsored activities. And again, those that are exposed outside are not eligible to participate. The process for the time of these tests to continue with in-person is really about 15 minutes. They should test and get results back within 15 minutes, and that would determine whether or not they continue with in-person learning or they have to quarantine. Again, parents or guardians register or they opt in for the testing program during the contact tracing process. So our contact tracers do follow through with the families to notify them of the opportunity in front of them. The Test to Stay program and our testing sites, again, will close during winter break. So both testing sites, which is at the Aspen location 5 days a week, and also in our technology building on Mondays, will close during winter break. The new health order, the New Mexico Department of Health order regarding school workers was issued out on December 2nd, and it requires all paid and unpaid adults working in public, charter, and private schools to receive the COVID-19 booster shot by January 17th. Again, that date is January 17th in the new health order to avoid weekly testing. So if you are not, if you have not received your booster shot, you must participate in weekly testing. Again, there are no exemptions for medical or religious reasons due to participating, in the testing or weekly testing. School workers, including Santa Fe staff, volunteers, contractors, and even subs must participate. The health order does state that the state of New Mexico has recorded a significant increase in new COVID-19 cases in recent weeks. With cases expected to rise during the fall and winter months, Santa Fe Public Schools is also working on vaccine clinics for staff over the winter break. So we want to provide them the opportunity to receive the booster shot. We've had 2 COVID-19 shot clinics for the youth, for our students, and they were fully booked. And so we're really trying to get those clinics available for not only the youth, our students, but our staff throughout the district. Again, Santa Fe High School students have artwork accepted for UNM Young Artist Exhibition. So congratulations to the Santa Fe High art students, Veronica Lucetti and Nico Turner for having their artwork accepted into the New Mexico UNM, the University of New Mexico Young Artists Exhibition. At the exhibition's reception and award ceremony on November 30th, Ms. Turner received Best of Exhibition, the very top honor of show, complete with a $1,500 scholarship and $500 stipend to spend on art supplies for her art entitled Untitled. The November exhibition featured the artwork of New Mexico 6th through 12th grade students for the 2020-2021 school year. We're proud to announce another great initiative. Congratulations to Lisa Vigil, Director of Santa Fe Public Schools Language and Culture Department, and Megan McCormick, our Language and Culture District English Learner Coach, for developing the TESOL and bilingual endorsement tuition reimbursement pilot program. That's a mouthful. Under the program, which is for teachers who are near obtaining or interested in obtaining a TESOL and or bilingual licensure endorsement, the Language and Culture Department will reimburse currently certified Santa Fe Public School pre-K through 12th grade teachers for up to 14 postgraduate credit hours towards the endorsement. This includes reimbursing the cost for tuition, books, materials, exam fees, and applying to the New Mexico Public Education Department for endorsement. Again, this was part of the Santa Fe Public Schools allocation of our ESSER funds. That department received $90,000 to really help that program get started and off the ground. 30% of our students are classified as English learners. Emergent bilingual students benefit from teachers with specialized training in English language acquisition, English language development, and bilingual education. So again, this is really to help us as an entire district and address some of the learning loss that happened during the pandemic and remote learning. Again, congratulations to 16 Santa Fe Public School students who are the 2022 Davis Scholars. From Capitol High School, Yamalina Diaz, Edward Martinez, Andres Cano, Esmeralda Laguna, Perla Juarez, Raven Luna, Maria Rivera, Michelle Ortiz, Victoria Rivera, Amy Segura, and Pete Velarde, all from Capitol High School. We also had 5 from Santa Fe High, Jesue Hernandez, Dominique Herrera, Isaiah Madril, Mabel Marquez, and Min Vu. As reported in the Santa Fe New Mexican in 2020, students receive a full ride scholarship. The 5 partner colleges, Lawrence University, Southwestern University, St. Edward's University, and the University of Denver, provide half of each student's scholarship, whether through institutional or federal funds. And again, this is for the Davis Scholarship funded by Andrew Davis, is for the first generation college going New Mexico students. So congratulations. We had our first meeting for the Superintendent's Diversity and Equity Council last week, and it was a great success. We had a lot of participation. We had a lot of community members' input. We had a lot of district staff. We've changed the date and time so we could have more Santa Fe Public Schools staff members from sites participate as well. So I want to say thank you to Crystal Ibarra and also Raquel for really putting this on and moving this forward. And lastly, Take a Break Initiative. And I want to give credit to Vanessa Romero, Deputy Superintendent Romero. It was really her brainchild and her staff's. And what that is a little bit of giving back to our educators in our sites. Everybody on this meeting that I can see has participated in it. And what it is we've asked our elementary schools to extend their recess and given the teachers a break. So we as district staff go out into their schools and provide recess duty. And we do it across the district. Yesterday, I was at Nye Elementary. I know Vanessa, Deputy Superintendent Romero, has attended about 90% of the scheduled schools so far. We've had departments participate, such as IT, general services, human resources, and it really gives district staff, again, a great perspective of why we're here and what we're doing. It's about those students and it's about our teachers. So it's a great initiative. Thank you, Deputy Superintendent Romero, for really getting this ball rolling and moving it forward. Do you want to add something?
I do. Thank you, President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. I also really want to thank Carl Morano and Kathy Casaus and Michael Hagley. They too have been at school sites about 90% of the time. And it's been so fun. We're really excited. The stories that we come back with, just our interactions with the kids has been really nice.
Yeah, and it's great perspective because we were out there at EJ Martinez and it felt like we had about 150 kids running around. So just getting back on the school sites has been great. So that does conclude the superintendent's announcements. Thank you.
Madam President.
Yes, go ahead, Secretary Jose.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. First, I would like to say thank you for that initiative to you and your entire team, because I think it's wonderful. And I was very excited when I saw it come across my email. Second, just to clarify on the Test to Stay program, because I think there have been some some questions that I've heard. And I'm not sure if you said it or not, but I believe that well, once students are fully vaccinated, if they are asymptomatic, that they are not required to quarantine. And so this is a program for unvaccinated or partially vaccinated people. Is that correct?
You are correct.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure the community understands.
Absolutely. Thank you.
On that note, is somebody who's testing on days 1 and 3 and asymptomatic going to school or quarantining at that point?
They are going to school. So when they test on day 1 and they test negative, they can continue with in-person learning. We are offering this to all of our school sites across the district in collaboration with PMG, and Sue, Brian, and Anita who have really moved this needle forward and this initiative. So again, it is for all students district-wide, and they do have to test negative on each day to continue with in-person learning.
Thank you. And Secretary Bozay, thank you for that clarification. That's a really important one.
I have some questions, Madam President.
Go ahead, Vice President Garcia.
Thank you, Superintendent Chavez. So did I hear you correctly that the new health regulations actually are going to mandate everybody to be tested pretty much that walks on the campus of any school? Contractors, volunteers? Did I hear that correct?
Right, they must receive their booster shot. Now, if they do not receive their booster shot by January 17th, they must participate in weekly testing. So that booster shot is the key word. If they have not received their booster shot and they've received the previous doses, they must participate in weekly testing.
Okay, because we need to know how you're going to notify all those individuals. Santa Fe County, City of Santa Fe is having some challenging times right now. In different individuals that don't want to get tested because of different exemptions that we have. So I guess the question I have is, how are you, your team, going to notify every contractor, somebody that's a plumber, somebody that's like an electrician, somebody that serves meals, bus drivers? How are we notifying all those individuals that by a certain day they must be boosterized, for lack of better terms?
Right. Yeah, and that's been something that the team and I have been meeting on for the last probably 48 hours, because you're absolutely right. With such a large district, we have a lot of notifications to get out there. We're doing a great job with Sue O'Brien, who's on here, and she can add as we move forward through answering these questions, develop the Google form to really help expedite the process of collecting this data and this information. So it's going to be generated. We're going to also use some of our stimulus funding to hire an individual to help us with this information gathering. And also, because there's so many booster clinics, we have to go in and figure out whether or not all staff members have received it. So there's going to be a lot of work behind the scenes. We're going to have to do a lot of contacting of vendors, contractors, volunteers, you name it. It's starting all over. It's been a very interesting week. The team and I have met. I've met with President Grace Mayer about this as well, because it does involve our teachers and staff. So we're doing all the legwork so we can get that information out. Sue, did you want to add anything?
Sure, thank you. President Noble, Superintendent Garcia, members of the board. As Superintendent Chavez spoke about, our main work right now is really to gather the information about and really updating immunization status. So we've been doing that right along for the majority of our staff. But now that contractors, volunteers, substitutes are all part of this picture now, that's where Superintendent Chavez is speaking about starting over. So we'll be sending out a Google form. Superintendent has already sent out an email notification, for a better lack of word, to the staff to let them know this Google form is going to come their way soon. And so that we can gather the information from them and get any updated information about their booster and just regular vaccination status. That's going to have to, that goes out to staff, that has to go out to all of our contractors, our volunteers, and our substitutes. And then after that, the work is going to be taking a look at the responses from the Google form and identify those students for weekly surveillance testing. So we already have a group of people that are involved in that, but the net just got a lot bigger, right? So that's going to be the work when we return from break and after we gather all this information. And we're going to have to track every single week who does not actually participate in the testing, and then address the individuals individually.
And we've even discussed, Vice President Garcia, even working over winter break, because it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of work, and we have a very small window to really get this information out and gather.
Mr. Granada, it looks like.
Thank you, Madam President.
Wait, hang on.
I always refer to my grandma. My grandma actually.
Hang on, please. Josh raised his hand. I was going to let him weigh in as well.
Thank you, President Noble, board members. I just want to kind of just briefly discuss what Vice President Garcia was mentioning in terms of the breadth of this order. Obviously, it starts with educators and those who are providing services to students. Those individuals are going to be required to have the 2 shots or the J&J plus the booster, or they're going to have to, provide a negative test weekly. And the definition in the order says school workers, and that definition is basically says that a school worker is somebody unpaid or paid who provide services to students. And so, volunteers who go into classrooms and read with students and whatnot are going to fall under that definition. Contractors would include, individuals that are hired by the district to perform certain services to students. And so a contractor who is a plumber or working on the electrical system and things of that nature aren't going to be required to be tested and to be vaccinated and boosted. Basically, the gist of the order is those people who have direct access with students are, kind of on a continual basis, are going to be required to be tested if they're not vaccinated and with the booster shot. Like a parent who comes in to volunteer for the class, for example, they wouldn't fall under this definition. And so I wouldn't consider this to be so broadly that anybody who steps on campus is going to be required to be vaccinated and have a booster shot. It's basically those who are going to have direct access with kids more or less on a daily basis. That's the way that I interpret it. And so I just want to make sure that's a little bit more clear.
Thank you, Mr. Granada.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. Granada. I guess you guys have a little bit of work ahead of you. A cross guard, in my opinion, a cross guard deals with students all day long while walking kids across the street. You mentioned also individual parent that comes in and works with kids in the classroom, that they wouldn't be required to get tested, vaccinated. I don't know. Just say, no, you guys have a lot of work, Larry. So this, let's just be consistent in what we do and how we do it, and who gets tested, who's going to pay for these tests, the weekly test. The district is, or the individual. So those are things I'm sure you're looking at, but we'll just be following as we go along, because as we know, this is a moving, unfortunately.
And all of our tests, are free, and it's in partnership with DOH and TED. And so that's why our vendor is PMG. They provide all of our tests to our students and staff at no cost.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Okay, seeing nothing further from the board, we will go ahead and move on to Roman numeral 9 on our agenda, presentations. And we will start with presentation A, the Board of Education Financial Outlook. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board. With me tonight is our CFO, our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Robert Martinez II, and our Federal Programs Coordinator, Ms. Ryan Cooper. So as we move through this, we will be describing and discussing some of the financial outlook, some of the budgeting that took place last year, what it currently looks like, and also wanted to include our federal funds, right? Our ESSER funding. So We're going to give you a high-level snapshot of what it looks like and just walk you through maybe some timelines and some dates to look forward to. So we'll move forward. I'm sure that at the very end, you may have some questions, so we'll stand for questions. Cody, go ahead and move on to the next slide.
If I may, Superintendent.
Yes.
Just to say that I requested that we do this presentation in part because it has always been my experience that the budget comes very quickly in a new year and in the spring. And there's so much going on right now that it seems the more we can get our heads around the schedule, the timeline, the issues that we'll be considering during the budget, the stronger we can be as a board and district team to do a really good budget. Budgets are always way more constrained than anyone thinks they're going to be when they start the process. So I'm really grateful for us having this conversation, and would say, just as a matter of best practices, I think you said this, Superintendent, but should the board hold their questions to the end, sort of note the slide number, and then we can have the discussion after you and Mr. Martinez go through everything? Is that your preference?
Absolutely, please do. And then we can always go back to the slides. And you're absolutely right. This is great timing because we do need to keep an eye out for what's going to be approved. And we'll talk a little bit about that as far as raises and how that impacts the budget. All right, next slide, Cody. Thank you. Again, just a quick overview, budget terms, definitions, FY22 budget updates, per pupil expenditures, timelines, audit status of what we can share of the audit at this point, our ESER 3 update, and then we'll stand for questions. Next slide. All right, budget terms and definitions, and I think this is always great to go over because sometimes they sound alike. Of course, the operating budget describes the entire budget, and it includes all funds. So when we're talking about the operating budget, it's really a pull together of everything that comes through our district. Operational is the main categorical fund, funded mostly through the SEG, or what is called the State Equalization Guarantee. It's always called the SEG. You'll hardly ever hear it called the State Equalization Guarantee, but we figured we would put that in there so you kind of can have a reference as we move through the slides. It does now include instructional materials, includes other local revenues such as leases, rentals, E-rates, also includes cash balances. It also includes at-risk funding. It includes anything that is pushed out by PED, such as letters training. So it is all-inclusive, and it is this one is a moving target. So again, even as we go through the unit value, we'll talk about a little bit about that and how that changes and how that impacts our budget. Special revenue is transportation, student nutritional, federal, state, and local grants. Of course, capital outlay is our bond, mill levy, special legislative appropriations, and the ed tech note. And again, I was on the radio today thanking the voters for the passage of both the bond and mill levy. You can never say thank you enough. Debt service are categorical funds used to pay principal and interest of the general obligation bond and ETN. Next slide. Mr. Martinez will take us through the next few slides.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. What you see on this slide is the initial budget. And in the initial budget, that's what the board approved moving in, it was about May for FY22. And below on the other side, you can see on the current adjusted budget, you can see there's some sort of differences. That's what the board approves. Those are the impacts of the bars that the board approves during the consent. So when you approve the bars, there's initial bars, which will represent new awards if it's an initial bar, or an increase bar, if it's a decrease bar, maintenance bar, transfer bar. But what the board is doing during that approval is they are moving funds, moving money. They're approving what business services is doing. So I want to show you the impact of that. So as I said, the initial budget that we submitted for FY22 was 259 million. And currently, after all the bars that have gone on between, in the first two quarters, it is currently, or in the first quarter, sorry, but we're at 314 million. So one of the biggest ones that we've seen an increase in is our special revenue. FY22, we were at 18.7 million, and currently we're at 55 million. That's the impact of carryover hadn't been adjusted or initiated yet from the public education department. So a lot of those awards finally trickled in, or those initial awards such as like ESSER. That's really the impact that you're going to see on this slide, and even moving forward throughout the year. Cody, next slide, please.
Robert, Mr. Martinez, may I add, so you can explain a little more about this? With the public education department and the delay in receiving some of these funds, what we have to do, and also, how we have to carry over some of these expenditures.
Sure, yeah, and as Superintendent Chavez said, I don't think a lot of people understand this, and I think it's important for the board to understand, but special revenue, a lot of that money is on a reimbursable basis. When the award comes in, they do not say, here is $1 million. What they do is they tell you, we're going to give you $1 million, but you have to front the money. And then if you spend it according to our plan, then you'll submit a reimbursement. And if everything outlines correctly, then we'll give you the money. So the district right now, in a way, is fronting almost $55 million. And later on in the presentation, we'll discuss the impact of what those reimbursements are doing to the district. It's always great to receive more federal money. It helps, it goes a long way, but the district has to front that before we actually receive that back. But moving forward, we'll discuss that. So per pupil expenditures, this is a requirement based on Every Student Succeeds Act. It was developed by the New Mexico Public Education Department in conjunction with Georgetown University. It's a very simplified approach that outlines the program cost, program structure, doesn't include specific funds such as capital outlay, debt service, student nutrition, food service. There's a few other drivers in there that are removed, but the purpose is to provide an analysis on resources allocation. That's something that I recently submitted to the PED. We have pretty much stayed similar from the previous fiscal year on that. And the upcoming timeline, as Superintendent Chavez said, we have a lot of dates coming up that the board is going to be included on, big decisions coming up. As we move into this next quarter, we'll have our 80th day reporting due in January. In February is when the FY22 unit value adjustment for the current fiscal year usually comes out. Currently, our unit value is $4,770.70. So I'm not sure if that will go up or down, but it will impact the budget either way. March is when our 120th day reporting is due. January and March are really important because the way that our budgets are built, it's an average of the 80th and the 120th day is what we will be budgeted on FY23. Now, that's not to say if, we'll be held harmless or if we will, be using membership from a previous year, which Superintendent Chavez will get into more later on, but those days are very important for FY23 budget. In April, we have the spring budget workshop. That's April 6th through the 8th. And that's a time for the superintendent and members of business services and some other cabinet members. They attend that conference, and what it is it's all the information thrown at you about what's coming with FY23 budget, if there's going to be additional considerations. Sometimes the unit value is released at that conference, sometimes it's not, but a lot of information comes then, and it's basically the start of all the districts submitting their budget. April to May, the board priority study sessions. As I mentioned, Superintendent Chavez can get more into that, but that's when the board really addresses the considerations from the spring budget workshop and some of the mandates that are forthcoming and how we are proactively going to be balancing that budget for FY23. The FY23 unit value, as I mentioned, it's sometimes released at spring budget. Really, it's sometimes after. Last year, we received the unit value on April 9th, so it was about the week following spring budget. Our FY23 budget has yet to be scheduled for submission. It really is just dependent on the analyst timeline from the PED, but it can be due anytime between April 15th and June 15th. Moving on to our considerations. Some of the considerations that we currently know of and we have on the table. This is something that we do every fiscal year throughout the fiscal year, is a review of the contract listing to help us prepare for the FY23 budget. And what business services does, along with the superintendent and the deputy and associate superintendents, is we just review and we scrub those contracts to assist us in balancing the budget. Another consideration is the potential of mandated salary increases. That is a big one on the table. We don't know the percentage, but what we do know is that it's going to have a direct impact to the budget on the district side. It really depends on the driver of the 910B5 and what the unit value will be in order for us to determine exactly what state funds will cover and what will not be covered. So at that time, we'll be able to really specify what the district is going to incur. Maintaining a steady cash balance, as I mentioned to the board before we got here, that the district really carries those special revenue funds and is reimbursed later on. I think the board needs to consider, along with the superintendent, carrying a higher unrestricted cash balance. And when the SEG and the RFRs are late from the PED, it really puts a huge impact on the district on payroll and AP functions, accounts payable functions. As I mentioned, we are dependent on the steady flow of SEG money coming in monthly from the PED. So I think it's just a discussion that the board and the superintendent and myself can have later on, but I do want you all to know the significant impact that it is making on the district. Just maintaining a higher unrestricted cash balance is going to make sure that we are all in the clear for never having any payroll or AP issues, is all I can say at this time. Moving on, pre-pandemic membership and hold harmless funding. The district does not currently have or receive any hold harmless funding. I know that several times it has been brought up that we do, but we do not. I mentioned the 910B5 is really the driver of how the district is funded on the operational side. So that includes, as Superintendent Chavez said earlier, at risk, fine arts. There's so many things that go into it, just not your membership. And then it multiplies it out by the unit value. Special ed is also included. And that's how we get to our 112 million that we're currently at right now in just the operational. I'll let Superintendent Chavez touch on this, as he might have more information or more to share with you.
And yeah, and if I can add, just so everyone is aware, whenever these salary increases come out, especially when it's a percentage, we take a direct impact. And the reason why we take a direct impact, we had experience previous years when the state mandated a 6% raise across the board. We have individuals who move tiers, so they move from tier 1 to tier 2 or tier 2 to tier 3. And those salaries, or the increase for salaries, are based on this current year. So everything we're talking about is based on this current year, where they're at, in years of experience, where they're listed on the salary contract, pay scale, and that's for next year. So it's not actually increasing the budget for the movement of our staff. It's actually based off of where they're currently at for this school year, not next. So we have seen in the past anywhere from 20 to 30% salary increases for individuals. And what happens there? The state covers, as they did in the past, 6%. The district is responsible for the remaining portion. So if it's a 30% increase to somebody's salary, the state did cover 6%, where the district had to cover 24%. So it takes a direct impact on our budget, what we can do, what we have to cut, what we have to consider as a way to balance the budget. So when we're looking at these salary increases, just remember that they're not fully funded. They are funded where they're currently at, not where they're going to be a year from now. Now, that's not for all teachers, but when we want teachers to have more experience and move tiers, because that's how they move, is either degrees or years of experience, that increases salary. So of course, we want our teachers to have the greatest salary possible. We want them to move tiers. We want them to gain years of experience, but we have to remember that our budget will take a direct impact. Our PED secretary, Dr. Steinhaus, also is aware of this. He and I have spoke about this, and he does agree that the way salaries are currently funded, even if it is a 6% increase, a 7% increase, it never covers all of the increases. And again, we have asked over the last few years to hold districts harmless. And what we mean by that is being funded on pre-pandemic numbers. All districts across the state have lost student enrollment. They have seen a hit to their budget. That also should be considered that cost of materials have gone up. Contracts have gone up. So when we're looking at all these things in the big picture, it really hits our budget hard. And when you see an increase of something down the line, it could impact our budget. So when we're talking about salary increases, we want to make sure that everyone understands that the budget, our budget, does have to pick up some of it. And of course, you guys have always picked up any type of benefits increase as a district. Next slide, please. All right, Mr. Martinez.
So the audit status, as Superintendent Chavez mentioned in the last board meeting, that the audit has been submitted on time to the Office of the State Auditor. So we are in compliance with NEMAC 2.2.2, the audit rule. Corrective action plan has already been developed, and with proper steps to mitigate the risks and how we are going to move forward in the current fiscal year and thereafter. The improvements in the audit of the district financials are reflected in subsequent years based on a cycle of the audit. Submission and release of the audited financial statements are estimated around the third quarter of the year, which is anywhere between January and March. Last year, it was about March. At the time of the release of the audited financial statements, that is when the board will be able to accept the audit and we'll be able to discuss those points of the audit. Next slide, Cody, please.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. And our federal programs coordinator, Ms. Ryan Cooper, will start taking us through the next few slides.
Thank you, Superintendent Chavez, Madam President, and members of the board. Just a quick update on where we're at with ESSER 3 funds and a little bit of information on what's going on with the funds. So district allocations were established by the U.S. Department of Education and follow the Title I funding formula. So allocations are based on community poverty. District departments, so that's the district allocation. Then within the plan, district departments were provided allocations based on preliminary understandings and sort of the scan on how to make the whole budget work. About 1.25 million is flowing to the sites for this school year for site-based planning. And sites were given a base allocation with an additional per pupil funding amount that factored in poverty, school size, and existing needs and programs. The application, our ESSER 3 where ARP application is considered a spending plan. So there's a lot of flexibility in it, and it can be updated to respond to needs as they arise. And right now, our application is substantially approved by the state. It's pending a final approval with the addition of our LEA plan to safe return for in-person instruction in continuity of service. And that was added to the application, so now it's just a formality to approve it. Next slide, Cody, please. Thanks. Okay, so again, just to repeat of that, the plan for safe return has been added to the application. Our full allocation has been awarded. You may recall we got 2/3 and then we were waiting for a final 1/3 to be awarded. That has been awarded. That final 1/3 is waiting budget approval from PED. Departments have been planning and encumbering funds. Some projects are like new furniture for Aspen's pre-K after school program, and also Lisa Vigil in the Language and Culture Department's TESOL certification program. Sites have been busy planning and spending funds for activities like professional development, a lot of supplies and resources, software, outdoor furniture, shade structures have been very popular, and benches. And application additions include student internships and funds to support the work needed to bring volunteers on board. And another thing that's just on the horizon is that PED is working with WestEd to provide monthly guidance and training to the federal programs coordinators and anybody else who would like to attend. And following that the WestEd is being sort of supported by the US Department of Education. So they're providing updated guidance and fine-tuned guidance. So some things in the application may be tweaked as we go along. And that's it for ESSER 3 right now.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper and Mr. Martinez, and we stand for questions.
Thank you very much. Questions from the board? Vice President Garcia.
Thank you, Madam President, for bringing this forward. Actually, you're right on it in regards to that budget's going to be here before we know it, and crafting the budget for anything for the state legislature making some mandates on us to move this forward. Thank you for bringing this forward. Mr. Martinez, you have a hard job. Thank you for what you do. Actually, you and your team really appreciate that, anywhere from getting the audit done on time to the corrective action plan that you've already done. And, you know, with this moving target as into the cash reserves, as into what the superintendent and some of us board members know what the state legislature did several years ago was to wipe all of our cash reserve from every single public school. But thank you for what you do, you and your team, Mr. Martinez. You guys have a hard job, and thank you for keeping us on the up and above water. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Vice President.
In regards to the cash reserve balances, what does PED require each school district a percentage of their cash reserves? Do we know?
They have to carry, I believe it's a 3%. The board has a policy about it's a 5%. I know that during the pandemic, the board had made adjustments to that policy, and I believe allowed us to take it down to 3.5%. We are above that, which the board was aware of that during the FY22 budget. When we brought the FY22 budget for approval to the board in May, the cash balance was 4.5%. You're correct, Vice President Garcia, that we have to be very careful and strategic about this approach, because the higher the cash balance, the more susceptible you are to having it swept in the event of a crisis. I believe that the district has actually had cash balance swept from them. I want to say I've heard it's been about three times, maybe more. I don't know the exact number, but so it has happened, and it can happen. And as we move forward and, you know, difficult times, we're never safe to say that it won't, but we do need to make sure that we are strategic and are able to maintain the functions that the district is most responsible for relative to payroll and accounts payable. Being able to pay our employees and our vendors on a timely basis, that's something the district really needs to keep in mind.
Thank you. Also, in regards to the unit value, you mentioned, how do you go about strategically estimating the unit value? Is there some sort of a formula you and the superintendent actually?
No, actually, the unit value we have nothing to do with. That is generated from the public education department. So, there's really no way. There's hearsay of what the unit value can and will do. It's all hearsay is all I'm going to say.
And we've seen trends over the years, see it fluctuate. So again, we see adjustments to the unit value come in. We're expecting one in the very near future. And so again, it does change, it does fluctuate. So we have to always be aware of that variable.
Thank you. And then also you mentioned in regards, you and the superintendent mentioned steady cash balance, unrestricted funds. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
So carrying a higher cash balance of unrestricted cash, because unrestricted cash is what you are able to utilize in the event of an emergency. Restricted cash you are not able to use. Utilizing restricted cash could result in an audit finding, not could. So, just carrying a higher unrestricted cash balance, allowing the district to utilize money in the event of emergency is what it really is. So when the board, during former Superintendent Dr. Garcia's time as superintendent, when she brought that policy to the board to decrease the cash balance from 5% to 3.5%, it was utilizing unrestricted cash.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, and Robert and your team. Great job. Thank you, Madam President.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez, and thank you, Robert, for that excellent presentation. I did attend at the State School Board Convention this past week. I did attend the ESSER presentation. It was done by the Deputy Superintendent of Gallup, and it was excellent. And one of the things is that you have to be sure that you spend that money or it gets returned to the feds by the certain date. So they talked about using your general funds and then pay it back afterwards, for some things that might take a little bit longer to get done.
And Dr. Gonzalez, that's exactly what we had to do with the Family Income Index. We were awarded funds at some of our schools, but we never received those awards. So we had to float it forward so we could start programs and we wouldn't lose any time. Our schools were getting very worried about not receiving these funds. So we did the exact same thing, floated them forward so we could initiate some of these initiatives and programs for the sites and then ask for reimbursement after.
That's correct. And if I may, just real quick, we actually do that with a lot of funds that are revenue or legislative appropriation based. I do want the board to know that, just real and quick, the way that it works for an award is we will receive an award letter and we have to put that into a bar. And in the award letter is all of the description and the details and the deadlines and everything. So as you mentioned, Board Member Gonzalez, that you do have deadlines that you have to spend the money by, but also by the time you have to submit an RFR by in order for the district to be reimbursed. If not, if you don't meet that requirement, the district will have to absorb that with operational money, which we don't have. So once the board approves that bar, then it goes back to the PED for approval. And after the PED approves it, then we actually are able to start utilizing that money or planning to utilize that money. We are not given that allowance right when we receive the letter. So it is timely, as Superintendent Chavez mentioned with the Family Income Index. That was a very lengthy process. So we do that several times throughout any of our funds is we'll start moving on it, and then we'll JE those expenditures back into those correct funds once we do have that money.
What is an RFR? Sorry,
A request for reimbursement.
I thought so, but I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, of course.
How are we doing? Oops, am I? Yeah, I'm on. How are we doing on RFRs? Because this is something, and you know, it's great that we're right in the thick of this, because in my opinion, we need to get our unrestricted cash balance up, as Mr. Martinez has been detailing. The difficulties, in large part because our request for reimbursement, our RFRs, take so long from the state, is that even an organization of this size can face, as you know, very small business owners know, just cash crunches and, you know, the need to make payroll and the amount of work and finesse that it requires for Mr. Martinez and his staff to make sure everything works with all of the deadlines and all of the things without having a comfortable amount of unrestricted cash for when we don't get timely payment on some of these things, is, as I've come to sort of understand through the audit committee, it's a very big deal. And it does look as if in the environment we're in now that we'll be okay for a little while. But as Mr. Martinez pointed out, and it was during my early time on the board, there was a cash sweep and we lost $2 million to a cash sweep in the final days, I believe, of Governor Martinez's administration, not final days, but it was in the previous governor's administration. Anyway, so this has long been a dance. And of course, we don't want to get up to giant cash balances either, because the money really should be on the ground working for students and staff and our community. So this is always a little bit of a balance. And, you know, Mr. Martinez, I hope you will bring to us some recommendations. You know, 5% seems like a pretty good level, but that's something that we'll have to consider as we go through it. But again, my question is, how are we doing currently on the request for reimbursement? And what's that picture been looking like this fiscal year?
President Noble, currently my staff, we submit reimbursements weekly, every single week, for several funds, for several of the same funds, just because having that money flow back into the operational account, because for you all to know, there's bank accounts that the district has merged. So the operational and the federal account are merged they're together. And it has to be that way because that's the only place that you can utilize that funding beforehand. And the operational budget is the only one that really has the cash flow to cover until we receive those reimbursements. So we do reimburse RFRs every single week, a lot of RFRs. Just so the board knows, and in agreeing with you, President Noble, it takes a long time to get some of those RFRs back. I will say that when I first started the district about 4 years ago, some of our RFRs were always being returned because they weren't correct or they were missing an expenditure report or whatever. It's pretty uncommon now for us to get an RFR back. As I've worked with my team, we submit them 100% on time, so we are able to get that money back as soon as possible and as quickly as we can. We've had an RFR that has been outstanding for over a year, not currently, but in the past. So for the board to know and to consider moving forward, that's money held up from the operational account for over a year, millions of dollars. As you saw in the budget earlier, our federal funds are just 55 million. That's a huge chunk of the budget. And that's a huge amount that's being tied up from operational. So we're sometimes holding our breath to see if we're going to get RFR money in, in order for us to continue other functions. So, we've.
And to add a little bit on that, Robert, sorry for interrupting you. And so that's why we have to work closely with even Ms. Cooper and really look at strategically planning. What are we going to spend? How long is it going to take for reimbursement? What funds are we using? So, we're looking not only short term, but long term as well. And some of these things, it's a delicate dance. And it is because, we have to meet payroll, we have to pay our vendors on time, we meet certain deadlines. So it's a lot of communication. Mr. Martinez, his team, and Ms. Cooper and her, and she's a single team actually, do a great job of communicating, collaborating together. A lot of times when we're receiving award letters, it's a joint process between the two groups because we all have to be on the same page. And then we have to get that information out to our sites because they're asking, where is my funding?
How much do they owe us right now? Do we have any idea?
I couldn't tell you. Yeah, I couldn't really tell you. I could go in and look. It moves all the time. It's a moving target is really what it is.
And part of what I'm getting at is that once in the past, at least once, but the board was active in talking to our delegation from Santa Fe and sort of bringing pressure through the legislature. And I do think Secretary Steinhaus absolutely gets it, but the more voices sometimes, if we can get our finger on the pulse on, are they doing reasonably well on the RFRs and turning them around, or do we have something that is a year old that's been sitting there? And, it's just, again, for sort of the board to be aware of, sometimes it's helpful to rattle the cage of legislators and the administration and to say this is a fairly serious operational issue for districts.
It's a huge issue all the way around, even for student nutrition, because student nutrition is on a claim basis. And we were probably about 3 months late to receiving our last claim for student nutrition. So to me, it's a little mind-boggling to me that we are not able to be reimbursed within 30 days. I feel like that is sufficient time, so I guess this is my plea to the board and to anyone outside that's listening from the PED and from, our elected officials, that this is such it's instrumental to keeping the district going. And, we are on a timer when we submit those RFRs and the spending plans and the details. A lot of work goes into it with Ryan and with my team. It takes about sometimes 15 hours to submit one bar, and we have bars flowing in all the time. You see them. There's probably about 30 bars on the consent, or 20. There's a large amount. So there's a lot of work that goes into it, but that's how important they are, and that's how important they are to our budget.
And another thing, everything we're doing as far as COVID related expenses is something that we're floating forward. We've also seen delays in that. Some of the individuals we're hiring, we're doing it through either ESSER or operation because we don't have those awards yet. We have the award letters, we just don't have the funding for it. So Sue O'Brien and her team they're very patient with us because we do want to provide a safe and clean environment for our staff and students without receiving the funds directly for it. So we do, float that funds from different sources so we can meet that needs and provide in-person learning.
Other questions from the board? I guess I have one more. Superintendent or Mr. Martinez, I don't know if you know, will we have vacancy savings this year? Is that something we're thinking about and factoring in? And I know that when we adjust the unit value in, I think it was April on the timeline, that's the biggest sort of adjustment as to what we're looking for, but just wondering how our vacancy savings are looking now, especially given that we have high vacancies.
We do have vacancy savings. Mr. Martinez and I have talked about this, really about moving forward. We've actually created a great system without overspending at the site levels. If we have budget in place, then we approve new FTEs, but we're not trying to create new FTEs, which would be something that we would have to fund moving forward. So it would just be a rollover in that one expense as well. So if it's needed, if there's funding for it, then we definitely approve it, but we're just not approving any new FTE that comes our way because somebody has an idea or two. So we're really trying to be aware and cognizant of what savings we need to carry over for next year, because these vacancy savings may be what helps us absorb those raises, to be quite honest.
And that's if the PED doesn't decrease our unit value in February.
Okay, anything else from the board? We saw the timeline and Mr. Martinez already answered my question about when the budget's due. Somewhere between April 15th and June 15th was what I heard. So we hope we'll get a little more time because there will be lots to do. And when the raises have gone through in the past, and I think Superintendent Chavez did a good job of explaining this, but if it's funded at 7%, say, it has never ended up being 7%. It has ended up being more because there's complexity to our pay tables, and we're fortunate to have teachers with, in higher tiers with lots of qualifications and that sort of thing. So it's good, but it hasn't penciled out. And I watched Dr. Garcia explain it over and over and over to legislators. And I think she got some good understanding grown that, just because you say 7% and maybe the SEG goes up 7%, that it doesn't all end up equaling out at the end. And the other thing that I would just say to Mr. Martinez and Superintendent, it might be worth starting earlier on board priorities for the budget, just so we have the chance to chew on some things, and you all don't have to be managing that once the numbers come in and there's all of that work to be done with updating everything, because that's when of course, once we get the new SEG, that's when the real crunch begins, and time seems to accelerate extremely. And did I see somebody else wanting to speak up? I think that's all I've got. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Martinez and Ms. Cooper. Really appreciate you putting that all out there, and Superintendent for bringing this and helping us get our heads around what we need to do with the budget.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, moving on to our next presentation, item B, we have a new SFPS website. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board. On a lighter note, this is something that Mr. Donarski is very excited to show you tonight. Again, this is just an example of what will be going live Monday. So Mr. Donarski, please take us through.
Good evening, Board President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. I am very excited to reveal, announce, however you want to say it, the new Santa Fe Public Schools website. As Superintendent Chavez did just mention, the website will be live on Monday. It will kind of accompany the State of the Schools launch at 6 p.m. on our YouTube channel. So I am going to share my screen. First, I'm going to show just a really quick 30-second we'll call it a hype video for the website, and then I will get into and kind of walk through it step by step. Awesome. So with that, I will kind of walk everyone through kind of what makes this new website so much greater than the website we previously had. So I will go back to sharing my screen. And so when we
user-friendly, Cody.
Yes.
I want to tell, and user-friendly.
Yes. And so this is the heading of the new Santa Fe Public Schools webpage. As you can see at the top, a lot more simplified. We have a new menu and school structure. So at the very top, we have a menu. There's only 4 columns, the quick links with all the kind of the high traffic areas, the 2021-22 calendar, the bell schedule, careers, code of conduct, the dashboard, dress code, all the things that people really are looking for when they come to our website. Next one over, we have departments. These are all the departments that live within the district. Teaching and learning has their own section, really getting into truthfully, the teaching and learning that goes on in the district, curriculum and instruction, the complaint process, the exceptional student services, and then lastly, students and parents, which will kind of house all the content for students and parents. The bubbles you see at the top will be the buttons you see on the app that will accompany the website. So there will be a SFPS app available on Apple and Android. It is really great. One of the things that I think is really great about the app is it is not just a condensed version of our website. It's really made to be mobile friendly. Really easy to navigate, get around, favorite the schools that you're interested in. It's really an incredible resource. So I'm really excited for that as well. So that is the menu. We come into the schools. Schools has their own section. We have all the elementary schools, our K-8s, middle schools, high schools, our online school, our early childhood, our IB school, and then back to the district. So separate from the menu, a lot easier to find and navigate to the schools that you're looking for right off the main page. And then last at the top, we have our language selection. So with this, you can select English or Spanish right at the very top of the web page, and it will translate all the content, all the text on the web page to Spanish. It's doing a little thinking. I thought it was going to be a little bit quicker, but yep, you'll see everything on the district page has now been translated into Spanish. So makes our website a lot more user-friendly, available, and kind of breaks down that language barrier that some people experienced with our previous site. We have this really beautiful slider kind of showcasing some of the amazing images that we have for our district. And then we come to the button bar. So this button bar houses up to 8 high traffic icons of areas that we think are most important to people. So right now I have the Board of Education button, which takes us to the Board of Education page, the calendar, which takes us to the 2021-22 school year calendar. Our COVID dashboard lives right here. Next is Peach Jar. Peach Jar is our digital flyer management system, so quick access to all the flyers that go out across the district. Power School, our student information system. The transfer lottery is there, and then our weekly bulletin is housed right there as well. So this one's loading. So button bar, it can be changed out. It'll change kind of a little bit here and there as new things come up. Transfer lottery will turn into registration and whatnot, but the button bar really houses a lot of those main, high visit areas. Next is the Why Us, 4 high purpose kind of touching points that we want to highlight for our district. Our 86% graduation rate, variety of career path offerings, standards-based learning, and bilingual education options. Next is what I call the meat of the website now, our news and live feed section. So this is where all of our important content will live. Our longer form content will live in the news section, and then the shorter form stuff will live in the live feed. Gone are the days of the endless scroll down our website to find all the news and things going on. You can come in here, it highlights 4 of our main news stories, and then we can come in here and see all the news stories that have been provided. So we can come in here, and this is from the press release that went out this afternoon about the tuition reimbursement pilot. And it comes and it has our news right there. Going back to the homepage is our live feed. These are our short form posts. I kind of look at this like a Twitter, kind of something really short. I put out a live feed post 2 hours ago. Welcome to the new site, Board of Education. And that's on all the school sites. One of the best features of this website that many might not notice or care about, but is really important to me, is the ability to post across the district to individual school sites in one click. Previously, to post something on our school sites would either require me to reach out to our social media managers and have them go in and post it, or I would have to go in and post the same thing on 29 different sites individually. Now I have the ability to post news and live feed directly to any school site, all school sites, and to our Facebook and Twitter, all in one click. So it's really allowing us to provide more content in more places without, the same amount of steps that were needed before, having to visit 3 or 4 different websites to post the same message. This kind of simplifies it. So it'll make getting our message out, 1, quicker, and 2, it'll put it out on so many more platforms without creating an unnecessary amount of work. Come down, we have our events bar. This has all of the events coming up. You can click into them. We'll provide the links. For example, the Equity and Diversity Council already has the links. So our links that show up at the bottom, you can click in and then go on to the meetings. And so the board meeting links will live here. The agendas will live here. Everything will live in here. And so that is the district page. I'm going to bounce back. And then we will go over to schools. And so the school pages look similar, a little different. I wanted to make sure that the school pages weren't just replicas of the district, because each school needs something different. So we'll go to Santa Fe High. Looks the same. Their menu will look the same. They'll have a similar menu structure. They'll have pictures relevant to their school sites. Their button bar is a little bit more simplified right now, but each school will add what buttons they think that their community needs most. As you can see, the news and live feed replicates that of the district, but they can post their own news as well that will show up on their page, but district news will also show up. So not only is this just district news getting out there, it is also school site news. So really allowing us to provide more news, more information about all the really great things going on within the district. And then at the bottom, we have programs. So this will allow the high schools to highlight the programs that make their school special right on the homepage. So Santa Fe High offers the culinary and engineering programs. I know they offer so much more, but these were the 2 that I had highlighted. So these will direct you to their pages, allowing people that are viewing the page, looking at them, trying to figure out where they want to go, some of the amazing things that make our schools unique. They will have their events bar once their calendar gets pulled in. And then at the spotlight, this is a really great feature that I like, that really allows us to highlight some of the staff, the students, anyone that the school thinks needs to be spotlighted and put on the website. So right now we have Principal Renee Salazar Garcia highlighted there, but for example, we could spotlight the Santa Fe High School soccer team who just won the state championship, or a music student, a violinist, whoever the schools want to highlight and spotlight, and give them a special place on the website, and making sure that they get recognized for all that they do. Coming down next, we'll have the scores and schedules section. So all the athletic events for Capitol High and Santa Fe High will have a place on the homepage. So if you're looking to check out the basketball score, the football score of last night's game, they will be available on the website, on the homepage, as well as on the app. We can go back, and as you can see, they have the similar options. You can get to the live feed very quickly, and it kind of pulls up all the live feed information there, as well as the news, all the relevant news for the schools. Sorry, I'm still trying to remember how to navigate around, just because it's still very new to me. Are there any questions? I mean, that's the new website. It's really user-friendly, much easier to navigate. One of the things that I think it gets forgotten about is, if you've ever been on our site, I'm sure many of you have, one news block will take up an entire page. So if you look at it from a content perspective, in your screen, you're only able to view one piece of information. And when you look here, you're able to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different pieces of information in that one screen. So we're allowing visitors and users to see more information on the same screen, and presented in a much better way, much more user-friendly, and really should allow us to better present the information that we have for the district. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen, and I'm open to any questions about the new website.
First, I want to thank Cody for really doing a great job with this. He would bring it to us for review, and we would ask him, how does it look on the phone? Is there an app? How does this look? So he kept really solving all of the issues that we would bring forward. He did an amazing job. So again, thank you, Cody Donarski, for this transition over next week, Monday.
Thank you, Superintendent.
Madam President.
Yes, go ahead, Secretary Bose.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. I just want to say how excited I am about this. I know, there are lots of really critical classroom related things that we talk about at the board meetings, but as a parent for many, many, many years, I found that the old website, so frustrating and so cumbersome. And people would reach out to me and say, how do I find this? How do I find that? And I'm like, oh my gosh, if it takes me half an hour, I'll eventually find it. I know it's there, but this is it's beautiful and it's modern and it's just yay for us looking wonderful on the web as well. So thank you to everyone involved for your hard work. It's great and it's so appreciated.
Thank you, Secretary.
Madam President.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to second Secretary Bose. It looks fantastic, and I'm so excited to use it. I'm not even going to look at the website until Monday again now. I'm so thrilled. So thank you so much as both a board member and as a parent. That's really exciting.
Thank you.
Vice President Garcia.
Thank you once again. Echo what the other two board members said. Just a couple of questions. Who populates the sites for each individual school? Is it just one person? Is it the principal? I guess what I'm getting at, if we can just have one individual person that's actually responsible for populating their individual school sites, or is it just you, Cody? Also, in regards to the updates on all the activities of all the schools, I guess if we can have one centralized person do that. I know we're getting off early tomorrow, but there was a little bit of confusion as to why we were getting off early and who sent it out. So I don't know how that works, but I'm sure you guys will figure that out. And just last night, I did get an email at 10 o'clock at night that there was a game this morning at 8 o'clock. And so I don't know how we actually go and inform different parents. I know there were some individuals there at this Indian school that were from Los Lunas. The lady didn't have her vaccination card, so they didn't let her through the gates. And that's definitely not, they weren't parents of the Santa Fe School District, but just more communication, which you were doing. And I think the website looks good. So thank you, Cody.
Thank you. And Vice President Garcia, there is one person at every school site called the social media manager. They oversee the website and any social media that those school sites have. That person could be a secretary, a technology teacher. Every principal selects a different social media manager at their school site. So there is one person that runs the website and the Facebook. And I know, adding the website on top of their already busy schedules and duties could be cumbersome. So with the new website, the ability to post to the website and to social media all in one click is going to make everyone's life so much easier, especially at the school site. And one of the things that I forgot to mention too is that you can post to the website from the app. So I've told principals that, if they're walking around school and they see, a really great piece of art on the wall and they want to share it out to their school community, they can snap a picture on their phone, hop on the app, post it to their website, post it to their social media, and share it out there. So it's really going to be an amazing tool that's going to allow us to get more information about all the really great things happening in our schools in a variety of places, quicker, faster, and better than ever.
And the social media managers do receive a stipend by the district, Vice President Garcia. And this website allows Cody to really help out the social media managers with posting information from our site or our account to theirs as well. So it makes a connection now, where in the past it was very difficult for us to really make that connection with sharing news and items that we needed to get out across. So we would have to reach out to the schools and ask them to post it on their website. This really does help us prevent that, and we can actually help them out.
Thank you, Madam President. I look forward to sitting down with my grandma and navigating through the new site, because my grandma says, well, what do you do? So this will actually help out me sit down with my grandma and say, well, let's go through this and show her how the computer works and runs. Thank you.
Yeah, that could be a profound level question from your grandmother, I'm guessing. But anyway, leave that there. Anything else on this? Congratulations, Cody, and everybody who did this. It looks amazing. And I would third, Terry Bose and Board Member Anderson said, from the perspective of a parent, it has been like, well, it's been tough. And this looks so much better. And I think that you will hear great sighs of relief out there when this website goes live. So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you, President.
Okay, moving along to our action items. We will start with the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda the board would like to consider separately, or does the board have any questions?
Madam President, I have some questions on item number A2. There's a contract over $60,000. How many are there? What are they?
So that information is in your packet. I believe there are 2 today. Oh, and Alma's going to show them to us. Do you want to consider this separately, or do you just want to? You don't know yet. Okay.
Madam President, I know you're,
Yes.
I know Alma's pulling them up. There is a $74,000 contract for some document scanning that will be happening district-wide, and, you know, data entry. And then facilities and maintenance, $2,000 something contract.
And can you see on the screen, Vice President Garcia?
Yes, I'm fine. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you, Alma. Ms. Bahar?
Madam President, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Secretary Bose. I'll go ahead and second. Any further discussion or questions? We'll do a roll call vote on approval of the consent agenda. Vice President Garcia?
Yes.
Secretary Bose?
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Board Member Anderson?
Yes.
And the president also votes yes. We have approved the consent agenda. Thank you very much. Moving on to item B, our second reading and consideration of approval of policy 354, opioid overdose response. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board with us tonight, taking us through the second reading of policy 354. It's Ms. Sue O'Brien, Jen Jefferson, and our legal counsel, Josh Granada.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. This evening, we're seeking board approval for the second reading of our opioid overdose response policy 354. The last time we were together for the first reading, we did not have any language changes or requests for language change. from first to second reading. So at this time, we could stand for questions, but we are seeking approval of the policy as it was provided in the first reading.
Thank you,
Madam
Ms.
President.
Yes.
I,
go ahead, Rosé.
thank you. I move to approve the opioid overdose response policy.
I second.
Thank you, Secretary Boise. Second by Board Member Anderson. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote on our second reading, which is really our final approval of policy 354 on opioid overdose response. Vice President Garcia.
Yes.
Secretary Boise.
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Board Member Anderson.
Yes.
And the president also votes yes. Thank you very much to the wellness team. Thanks for being here and for doing this. It's really great to be working on these things and making sure that we can save lives. Thanks very much. And now to board discussion and possible action. And a couple of folks, I believe, said they had some things here, but first, do we have an appointee to the CRC?
Madam President, sadly, I do not have an appointee. I am waiting to hear back from the person I most recently asked. So fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. All right. Thank you, Secretary Boise. All right, what else is there for board discussion and possible action?
Board President Noble.
Go ahead, Board Member Anderson.
Thank you. I was wondering if we could get an update on, I just had three, not quick things, but three things kind of under the heading of COVID safety. With the new boosters and booster mandate being put in place, I was wondering if we could get an update at some future meeting on our teacher and staff vaccination rates with the boosters. I also know we've had new COVID safety measures implemented. So I'd love to know sort of what's changed since our last update on COVID safety measures. And then I don't know how we're going to be collecting this or how this data works, but student vaccination rates, it would be great to get an update on, if possible, on our student vaccination rates, just so with those three things together, hopefully get a better picture of sort of how we're keeping our students and our staff safe from COVID-19.
Good stuff. So we have had a practice, which seems a good practice, just that as long as 3 board members agree to an informational request like that we do it. So again, we can act as a board. And just to say, I think this sounds great. I think we are still in a pandemic and it really is the topic of the moment. So I am in support of Board Member Anderson's request. Are there other board members who are interested in having the updates requested? I see Dr. Gonzalez. I see nods from Vice President Garcia. All right, seems like we have
Madam
unanimous.
Actually, I think it would be really great if that could be for the foreseeable future on the agenda for superintendent updates at least once a month at our meetings to give kind of a COVID update. If there are changes, guidelines, I think by nature he does that already, but just to kind of make it intentional and to discuss those other things when it's appropriate as well. But I definitely am in support of that.
That sounds good also to me. Anybody else? And I think Secretary Boise gave some good flexibility around that, but that, some regular updates, some good specific updates on the data Board Member Anderson requested. And it looks like everybody's nodding along to that as well. I see a thumbs up from Board Member Anderson. So, okay, anything on that, Superintendent, for you that's not clear? You feel good?
No, sounds good. And I think, it's good timing, especially with the new health order coming out and that January 17th date on the horizon. So I think those are very doable. And we're actually starting to collect a lot of that data because a lot of it we have to report to the state. So absolutely. And, we're talking constantly with Sue O'Brien and Anita Hett and their team. So we'll definitely bring that back monthly.
Great, thank you. Anything else, Board Member Anderson?
That's it for me. Thank you, Board President Noble.
What else? Yeah, go ahead, Vice President Garcia.
Just a couple of things I would just like to bring up is, as you know, we all attended the New Mexico School Board Association's conference last week. Actually, a good conference for existing board members and new board members. So I find that I always leave there with some more information about schools and school districts in the state of New Mexico. Thank you for that. Also, I'm interested in what Grace actually mentioned earlier about what kind of tools she needs or the districts need in order to help students, educators that are dealing with some sort of trauma or PTSD. I know a couple of individuals myself that actually in the South Side, what happened, the tragedy that happened about 2 years now. And like to thank Mary Louise. She actually goes beyond the call of duty and she probably does it on her own. I don't know what she does, but she actually does. And she has a very good rapport with some students and individuals in the South Side of Santa Fe. And some of those kids are still in tragedy as into what happened. I know one individual myself, and I guess I just like to see the superintendent, you don't have to give us an answer now, but how can we help out those individuals, educators, teachers, even sometimes parents? There are some stuff that's happening on the south side of town. I have been in contact with our sheriff, Sheriff Mendoza, and he actually called me about a month and a half ago. He said, I just want you to know we're going to start doing some patrols in that area. And, he says he is the ultimate most law enforcement officer in Santa Fe County within the city limits as well. And he's going to start meeting with individuals out there, government officials, and anybody else that we need to meet with to raise the patrols in that area. And I appreciate that coming from the Sheriff's Department because, like I said, please, Mr. Superintendent, see if we can help out some of those students because we're losing them very quickly, and I don't want to do that. And another thing is Grace actually talked about in regards to individuals possibly giving some donations for gift cards, etc. I did talk with an individual today at the basketball game. She has an organization that is willing to contribute a good chunk of money to the schools. But she kind of mentioned to me that her donors don't actually want to give the gift cards, so many gift cards or whatnot. She actually wants her donors want her to actually look at something that, and I'll get with you on this, Superintendent. They want to give some money to some sort of school activities or programs that instead of just gift cards, but that's something that she brought to my attention. I'm going to set up a meeting with the superintendent, her as well. And I don't know if her donors actually want to participate, but that's something I'll talk to you about, Larry. And then we can bring it forward to the board or to your team. Couple of things I would like to see how we can do what we need to do. Superintendent's status updates on some of the projects we have going on. ECHO, where are we at with ECHO? I know that the voters voted some additional money for ECHO, but I know in the past we were actually working and we were, I think, this close to actually completing a master plan for ECHO. So if we can maybe at the next meeting, you can give us an update or somebody from your staff. Mm-hmm. Also, I know we have some new and go into some of the basketball games, the new Capitol High additions or the new admin component of Santa Fe High. Very nice facilities, very nice. I don't know how we actually need to get to the media or somebody out there to say this is what our public schools are doing. This is what we're doing with our tax dollars. And I don't know if we can have Cody or somebody do a press release, or once those buildings are actually 100% open, I believe they are, but if we can just look at that. Another thing is an update from the citizens, from the CRC. What are they reviewing and what is their plan in bringing some projects forward, or what's their ultimate strategic plan that they plan on bringing forward to the Board of Education? Also, just to let everybody know, the resolution that Board President brought forward in regards to the vacancy rates for different positions throughout the school district, teachers, anywhere from affordable housing. Santa Fe County did pass that resolution at our last meeting. I did talk, I guess backing up a little bit, there are the all subs at State Road 14 in between the Santa Fe Brewing and the all subs. There's about a 740 some lot subdivision that is actually moving forward and had approval from the last 5 years ago. And I actually brought it up because they were on phase 1 and phase 2. And I asked the consultant, where are these school sites? What's happening with all these school sites? We have 700 homes, actually literally as we talk right now, getting constructed. And I'm just concerned about what we're doing with schools, because, we're the individuals that actually oversee the policy for schools. And we have all these developments. As we all know, you see these apartment complexes going up left and right every in the city of Santa Fe, and it just amazes me. But nonetheless, I did talk to a developer too, and they mentioned that they do send a copy of their plans to somewhere at the schools. But Superintendent, if you can see who gets those plans and how we can or cannot participate in some of these developments and in them moving forward. And in regards to the resolution that I brought up, I did speak with a different developer today, and he's actually was talking about creating a 90 lot subdivision in the south side of town. And he wants to, the city is requiring him to do something. President Noble, you might know this better, is anywhere from 15% affordable housing. He wants to do up to 50%, and he actually wants to target educators or anybody else that is in the workforce of our public school system. And that resolution that we all passed allows us now to create some sort of a committee to start working with individuals in the community as into how we can provide, look at where affordable housing is, look at teacher salary, et cetera. So I guess we need to start moving forward on that committee team, whatever the resolution calls for, as Board President Noble brought that forward. And those are some of the questions I would like to have answered maybe at our next meeting, or how you would like to do that, Superintendent. Appreciate that. Thank you, Madam President.
So thank you, Vice President Garcia. I think just in trying to figure out, that was a pretty long list of requests. And if I can categorize some of them, I think that there was a sort of update on facilities master planning and CRC and how our interface with developments is going, was a big category of what you listed. And I think a certain amount of that is not particularly difficult. Superintendent, of course, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, I think most of that's meetable. And again, the sort of purpose of this is so that we can discuss as a board and agree, so that, at least 3 of us sort of want that work to happen. And I can leave it up to the superintendent if any of that feels, like you want the whole board to weigh in on.
I think a couple of them we can bring back as my announcements. We have some initiatives, as you mentioned, Vice President Garcia, some tools and groups and support groups for our teachers. So we can bring those back as announcements because we have set that up in place and made notification to our staff.
Okay, great. And just on and I appreciate, I'm virtually certain that the staffing crisis resolution passed the city council last night at their meeting on Wednesday, so that we now do have 3 local governments having passed parallel resolutions about the educator staffing crisis. Vice President Garcia, in your role as Commissioner, have you received an invite to a meeting from the Santa Fe Housing Action Coalition? You don't, okay. I will get back with them. I've been trying to work with that entity so that the burden is not on our district staff to facilitate and coordinate between the 3 local governments. The executive director, a man named Michael Badio, has said that he has sent out invitations. I asked that you and the county manager, and because I really do think that the foundational conversations need to happen between the schools, the county, and the city, and thinking through how this can go. And the invite, I believe, initially went out to more housing partners than folks at that government level. So I will follow up with him and try and get that on track. And I appreciate your attention to it. And I guess I would also just say, I share your concern about development and school planning. And this is a big, giant topic that I think we need to wrestle with and figure out. And we're required to. I attended the redistricting session at the School Boards Association. We are required to do this in order to rebalance our population in 2022 by the end of the year. We, in essence, are required to adopt new maps. So this is something that I hope we can really get going on quickly in the new year, and think about some of those things and how we work better with the city, the county development approval processes, so that, as one former board member described it to me, we're really the tail that is being wagged by the dog, and that's the development approval processes by our other governments there. We committed as a board, a previous board, to really reimagining our district with an equity lens. And it makes a lot of sense for all of this to really come together through our redistricting conversations in 2022. So I hope that we can look at a plan, maybe a resolution to sort of update our commitment and guiding principles around that as we go forward in 2022, because we have to do it anyway. And it's kind of all so connected, obviously. Anything else on that you wanted to have follow up on or specifically address? I think that was most of it.
Madam President.
Yes, Secretary Rose.
In line with what is being spoken about right now, and I was sort of surprised to not hear this in the superintendent's updates, but when he mentioned, care for teachers, the wellness meetups flyer that came out this week with the support circles and the mindfulness moments done by a wonderful, wonderful parent of a Santa Fe public schools, children. And I hope that flyer is going out to all the teachers and staff because it will certainly help address those mental health crises and just the stress that teachers are dealing with in the classroom. So
Absolutely.
Again, kudos to the district for initiating that and following up on it. And I hope that's getting the words getting out to all the teachers and staff that that we really do care about that aspect.
And we sent that out district-wide. Secretary Bose, I want to thank Sue O'Brien and Deputy Superintendent Romero for working on this and putting this together. Again, we want to show any support and do all we can to really show that we appreciate them. So thank you, Ms. O'Brien and Deputy Superintendent Romero.
And I would also like to thank Kathy Casal. She played a big role in this.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. I want to make sure that we we put in the resolution that Deputy Superintendent Romero has been working on the career and technical education, possibly in the next meeting, because there is going to be a lot of funding for CTE in the legislature, and it would be good to get it out there and get the resolution to legislators so that they have something to work with.
It's ready.
What's that?
It's ready. We'll bring it to the next board meeting.
Great, thank you.
Madam President, Member Gonzalez, CTE, can you tell me that again?
Career and technical education?
Thank you.
And on the previous point, Secretary Bozay, I believe you are working with our wellness team on a study session. Is that correct?
I would love to be working with our wellness team on a study session.
We were going to announce that for advanced planning, 2 study sessions.
Okay, we'll get there. And I believe I did hear that from you, Superintendent, that the intention is, and it sounds like the willingness is there for Secretary Bozay to be engaged in that. So that's wonderful. Okay, other things on board discussion?
Just Madam President, just like to thank the General for still being here with us. Mr. McGinnis, the Attorney General.
And this is Attorney General for, can you let us in on what you're referring to specifically?
He actually mentioned earlier. Go ahead.
The youth in government. It's youth in government is yeah, it's run by the YMCA and it's a nationwide thing, and they have conferences during the summer.
Got it. Thank you. I'm not sure it translates when somebody's elected to Attorney General position. I assume it's elected that you just call them general, but maybe I don't know my protocols around that terminology. So the other thing I wanted to bring up on board discussion is just to say, and the newspaper caught me out on this a tiny bit. There's an article about the superintendent today, but it is my hope that as a board, we can look at our superintendent evaluation and contract really in January or early February. And as I had to think on my feet with our reporter, I did find myself realizing that every possible path, I think, benefits from us working on it sooner rather than later. So I'm seeing nodding from my fellow board members, but I do think it's something that we need to keep on the radar and not let slip away as and this is our last board meeting in 2021, amazingly. So, you know, tonight we have a sort of long set of things that we are committed to following up on New Year and early in the new year. So I don't want to have us miss that one in the list of many things that the board and district team need to follow up on. And so just to follow the protocols, it looked like everybody nodded along, but are we good with really working on the superintendent evaluation and okay. Yes, excellent. Yes. Thank you very much, Superintendent. And I know Ruth is out there somewhere probably listening and Amal Behar. And thank you, Ms. Williams. Thank you, Ms. Behar, for all you do to keep us back. And we have a few things that came up tonight. So appreciate you keeping track of those. Secretary Bozay.
Thank you, Madam President. I have yet another thing to bring up, which is not fun or exciting, but does feel very important in light of yet another tragic school shooting. I wanted to have a brief discussion regarding safety in our school communities. As we learn more about the timeline of the events that happened at the school in Michigan last week, it appears that there were several missed opportunities that could possibly have prevented that heartbreaking event. The tragedies are truly senseless if we do not learn something from them. First, I would like to say that teachers know their students. Teachers really know their students. When a teacher raises a concern about a student's behavior, that concern should be heard and validated and given serious follow-up. This has always been true, but I believe it to be even more crucial now, considering the mental health crisis of students in our country, as we heard from our actual Surgeon General this week. Second, I would love a thorough review of district policies regarding serious threats. I don't know that this is important for us to hear. Maybe it is, but I do think it's really important that that be reviewed with all school site administrators. I know the policies and procedures are in place. I know they look effective and very thorough on paper. I think what we need to ensure is that those policies and procedures are as effective as they appear to be in actual real life situations. Often, unfortunately, as we are seeing in this instance, it appears as if there were breakdowns in those procedures. Which brings me to my third point. It feels prudent to reassure our community that our policies and procedures would not break down in the face of a real and serious threat. I choose to believe that parents have good intentions, but there should not ever be an opportunity for parents or guardians to bypass or override district procedures. Our ultimate job is to ensure a safe and engaging learning environment for all students. And I hope that we can verbalize a recommitment to protecting our students and school staff from gun violence. Thank you.
Madam President.
Vice President Garcia, go ahead.
Thank you, Member Bourget, for bringing that forward. As we know, every school district here in the state of New Mexico needs to submit a security safety plan to the Public Education Department. And I believe Superintendent Chavez submitted his plan to the Public Education Department earlier this week or late last week. So I don't know if maybe at the next meeting you can go over the plan that was submitted to the Public Education Department and kind of the questions that Board Member Bourget brought forward. But we did turn that in, correct, Superintendent?
We did, and it was due last week, and we submitted. So every school has to submit a plan for approval. So we need to wait for approval as well.
Thank you, Madam President.
Superintendent, do you see a path forward? And I guess I'd say I would support Secretary Bourget's requests to have an update and a look. We have to stay vigilant on this thing. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had a interview with Mr. Eads this morning or this afternoon, and he asked the same question. So it's out there. It's our community's concern. Mr. Salvidras is doing a great job of rolling out the Say Something Anonymous tip line or app. And so we're really utilizing that across all our schools throughout the district. So we can bring something back just to show you what some of the policies we have in place and some approved and what we're doing to prevent something like this from happening.
And again, just follow the protocol. Is there another board member who's into that? Nods, thumbs up. Yeah, okay, great. Again, unanimous. It's great when we act together. Thank you, Secretary Bourget. It feels very important right now. And it's always important. Okay, anything else on board discussion? Seeing nothing, let's move on to advanced planning. And maybe we could have a look at the advanced planning universe. The superintendent, did you want to let us know the plan for that study session?
Yeah, and I think the first one up for discussion would be January 27th, and that would follow the approval of the CCTE resolution. I think the timing's very it's in line with the session, asking for money, really looking at what we have to offer, really specifically at ECO. So I think that's a timely place for a study session to follow up on the hopeful approval of the resolution. And our second one is possibly to replace February 24th. We have a study session of the Finance Subcommittee, and we thought that would be a good location for the student wellness study session.
To replace the Finance Subcommittee.
Yes.
Okay. Anything from the board on that? That does, just to call out, that does mean 3 weekly meetings in a row in January, or it may, unless we end up, I'm not sure why we ended up with our regular meetings 1 week apart from the 13th to the 20th in January, but maybe we could look at not doing the one on the 20th if we're going to insert a study session on the 27th. Seems like a lot of meeting unless we really need it, which maybe we do. We've got a lot to do in January, but we'll just leave that for you and the team, Superintendent.
Absolutely.
And Secretary Bose, February 24th, for helping to think through a wellness study session. Seems all right to you?
Yes, that timeline sounds good. Thank you.
Great. And just to call out on the 17th, that special board meeting to approve GeoBond and ETN sales, there's some particulars in terms of how we do that, and we have to publish a special meeting. This is just sort of requirements of how this goes. So we do that at, I guess, 5:15 and then come back for our regular meeting at 5:30. It's a very quick single action meeting, just to call that out, but good to see that, so we can keep moving on our bond funding and ETN funding.
Madam President, those are some of the reasons in regards to what the updates are of some of our projects, because if we're going to sell those GOB bonds, general obligation bonds, I just want to make sure that projects are moving forward prior to us selling the general obligation bond. Thank you.
Good stuff. Thank you. All right. Anything further on advanced planning? There's one more meeting, a CRC meeting on the 15th of December. But other than that, this is our last board meeting of 2021. So I guess I just want to say a huge thank you to you, Superintendent, everyone on the district team, and everyone throughout the Santa Fe Public Schools. It's been, we thought 2020 was hard, and 2021 came and brought us plenty of continuing and new challenges. And, I really have been spending a lot of time thinking about how collective action adds up, and how every little thing that a teacher, an EA, a cafeteria worker, a custodian, a bus driver, a secretary, a principal, an assistant principal, a district administrator, everybody does, it leads to this collective that does a lot of good for a lot of families and a lot of kids in our community. And we always want to do more and be better, but every little bit, every little good action helps. And we've gotten through this year successfully, and a lot has been accomplished. And I am very, very proud to be a part of this organization. So just want to say to everyone listening, not listening, feeling the energy in the universe, whatever it is, thank you. Thank you for everything in 2021.
And thank you, and the board as well, and the team.
And thank you to my fellow board members. This is a really stable, good board. We talk things through. I'm so grateful for all of you. It hasn't always been this way, and personally, I don't take it for granted. So thank you all for being the level-headed, committed people that you are. We hear things about boards everywhere, and there is never a question in my mind that every member of this board is in it for the kids and the community. And that, again, is something not to take for granted. And we are way beyond that. We are collaborative, listening, hardworking, and pretty much everything you might want in a board. And I'm so glad that we have a new fabulous board member in Board Member Anderson, and that we have the continuing members that we have. So just huge gratitude. Vice President Garcia, were you raising an actual hand, or are you just playing with your?
No, I was just trying to get to see how my grandma, so I could say, look, grandma, you can raise your hand. So I just pressed it. No, I'm new to this stuff as well. So I just put raised hand, sorry.
Okay, anything else? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you
Have a
all.
wonderful break. Thank you,
Happy
guys.
holidays. Happy New Year.
Have a nice break.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.